Welcome everyone to our RAIN webinar. Today, we're talking about source tagging medication and medical devices with RAIN RFID. We still have a few people joining, but I'll go ahead and get started so we can get to the important content from three of my RAIN Alliance colleagues. My name is Paul Elizondo. I work for IntelliGuard in San Diego, California. IntelliGuard develops RAIN RFID enabled medication management and dispensing solutions for hospitals and acute care facilities. I also serve as the leader of the healthcare workgroup within the RAIN Alliance. RAIN is an alliance of companies promoting the use of RAIN RFID to optimize supply chains and provide automated inventory visibility. If you're new to RAIN, RAIN is a passive wireless RFID technology. It works in the UHF band. It works according to the GS1 UHF Gen 2 protocol, and also works according to an ISO 18000-63 protocol. They're the exact same protocol. RAIN is a proven, mature, reliable, accurate technology for identifying items across the supply chain. Within RAIN, we have many different work groups who are working to promote the technology. And the healthcare work group has a vision that someday all pharma products, medical devices, and critical supplies will be RAIN enabled, providing benefits to the key players and stakeholders across the value chain, and ultimately improving patient safety and care. Our mission is to educate the industry, facilitate adoption, and associating RAIN with improved patient care and safety. Now, there are many, many applications of RAIN in healthcare, and this slide is hard to see, and it's hard to see everything on this slide, but you can see that there are many applications of RAIN in healthcare. RAIN has already been implemented in hospitals across the US, and healthcare professionals are benefiting from RAIN at this moment. And what we'd like to say is RAIN allows healthcare professionals to practice at the top of their license and to actually treat patients, as opposed to worrying about inventory or where inventory is or whether it has efficacy and whether it's expired or been recalled. So there are many, many applications of RAIN in healthcare, and many healthcare professionals are benefiting from RAIN at this time. We believe passionately the ultimate solution of RAIN in healthcare is tagging all of these items at the source of manufacture and then tracking the items from the source of manufacture to the patient in the hospital. Today, it is my pleasure to introduce to you three of my visionary work group members who are deploying RAIN to lead the transformation of the healthcare supply chain. We believe that RAIN will revolutionize the medication, medical device, and hospital supply chains. I wake up every morning thinking of this irony. The retail industry will utilize 32 billion tags this year to track items from the source to the manufacturer, for the source of manufacture to the consumer. Tommy Hilfiger tracked my chintzy $40 polo shirt from the factory to the outlet store 10 miles from my house. And how did he do that? With a RAIN tag sewn into my shirt. This belt, I bought it from Macy's. and it has an RFID tag on it. Imagine 34 billion tags this year will be used to track these consumer items. If the retail industry benefits from RAIN, imagine the benefits we can provide the key players and stakeholders across the healthcare enterprise. RAIN visibility provides accurate item pedigree, data that proves efficacy, authentication that can reduce counterfeiting, and accountability that can reduce diversion. This is an extremely important project because every person, all 52 people on this webinar, are a stakeholder in this supply chain. At some point or another, either we will be in a hospital or our loved ones will be in a hospital, and we will be patients, or we will know or be very close to patients. I firmly believe that the opioid crisis could have been averted if narcotics had been tagged with RAIN and the events describing the movements of those narcotics through the supply chain had been visible to the FDA. In 10 to 15 years, and I hope I'm still around to see it, I firmly believe we will look back and we will say, how did we ever manage such a complex supply chain without RAIN? So thank you very much for your attention. On now to the great content from our speakers today. If you have any questions during the presentation, please click on the Q&A icon on your Zoom screen. Please type the name of the speaker to whom you'd like to ask the question. And at the end, we're going to go through them, and then we'll have plenty of time to answer these questions. So thanks again. And I want to introduce to you first Gwen Volpe from Fresenius Kabi. And Gwen, you have control of the slides, and take it away.
Okay, Paul, thank you very much, and welcome everyone. Well, thank you so much for this opportunity. My name is Gwen Volpe, and I'm a Senior Director of Medication Technology at Fresenius Kabi. I'm a pharmacist, a Lean Six Sigma Black Belt, and a fellow of ASHP. I also lead our upstream commercial RFID efforts for North America. You know, the goal of my presentation today is to introduce you to Fresenius Kabi, who we are, what we do, our RFID journey, and the importance of RFID partnerships. And so I'd like to start out by giving you a background of Fresenius Kabi. So with our corporate mission of caring for life, everything we do at Fresenius Kabi has one ultimate purpose: to put life-saving medicines and technologies into the hands of people who care for patients and to find answers to the challenges that they face. Our growing portfolio of products are used to help care for critically and chronically ill patients. We provide injectable drugs and vials and syringes, biosimilars and specialty pharmaceuticals with a focus on rare and chronic diseases, parenteral nutrition, infusion therapy, and transfusion technologies. So today we offer a broad range of medicines and vials and ready-to-administer presentations, and we offer over 700 SKUs in various therapeutic classes to our healthcare customers, and we employ over 42,000 people globally. So you may not realize that we got our start more than 100 years ago by Dr. Edward Fresenius. Upon his death in 1946, the entire company went to his 21-year-old foster daughter, Elsa. In 1983, she started the Elsa Kroner Foundation that was dedicated to the support of medical research projects. And she led the company until her death in 1989, and then left all of her company shares to the foundation, which means the largest shareholder in Fresenius is the Elsa Kroner Foundation, a nonprofit organization. Oops, one too far. So today, more than 70% of the products shipped by Fresenius in the US are drugs listed on the FDA's essential medicines list. These are medications that are medically necessary to have available at all times. And you may be surprised to learn that more than or 70% of products shipped by, or I'm sorry, that you may be surprised to learn that more than 70% of our products for the US are formulated, filled, and packaged in the US. And we have 3 US manufacturing facilities in Wilson, North Carolina, Melrose Park, Illinois, and Grand Island, New York. So we've also expanded our distribution capabilities to bring us closer to our customers and speed the distribution of our products. And we operate 3 distribution centers in Pleasant Prairie, Wisconsin, Las Vegas, Nevada, and Duncan, South Carolina. So here's an interesting fact. We already deliver over 470 million units of injectable medications each year in the US. So in 2020, Fresenius Kabi unveiled our first RFID-enabled product, Gipravan Plus RFID. The RFID portfolio of medications provides pre-tagged and encoded medications, saving hospitals time and effort. So our journey started with a customer visit where we saw our customer attaching RFID tags to our pharmaceutical vials one by one and associating drug information to each RFID tag. And they asked us to pre-tag our products so they would not have to, which really is saving them time and the risk of error. So to implement RFID, we needed to learn as much as we could, and we turned first to our customers and then to industry experts and professional associations. Because of the types of medications we produce, it was imperative that we do this right. The next step was choosing an RFID tag vendor and partner that really aligned with our mission of reaching all of our customers. We needed a partner that could not only provide high-performing RFID tags, but the hardware, services, and information we needed to implement RFID on our manufacturing lines. So tag design and an easily identifiable logo were important considerations, and using RAIN RFID was important to wirelessly enable our products. Our RFID inlays needed to be designed for the unique needs of our pharmaceuticals. And lastly, we needed a logo that identified the RFID product easily to distinguish it from our non-RFID products. So we did a lot of market research before we decided what to tag and use and what information to encode. And most importantly, it was paramount that our RFID products could be utilized by any customer with any system, similar to our GS1 products today. So we turned to GS1 standards to advise the encoding of our Plus RFID portfolio. And as a result, each Plus RFID product contains the 4 pieces of data crucial to patient care: the NDC, the lot number, the expiration date, and a unique serial number, allowing for pinpoint tracking of individual products. And this really allows us the flexibility that is needed to work with the various RFID hospital systems. Some may read locally, others depend on the cloud. You can read all 4 pieces of data or just what you need. So regardless, using GS1 standards really allows us for automatic, unique, standardized, and actionable product identification, which is so important for pharmaceutical products. So preparing our manufacturing sites, this really included installation of inline RFID readers that could read and transmit data to our internal systems at very high speeds, qualifying and validating this new equipment and data, as well as training our employees on new processes and procedures to ensure a high-performing product. So Fresenius has our own internal robust qualification and validation process to ensure high quality and performance. In addition, before releasing Plus RFID products to the wholesale channel, we proactively certify our inlays with ARC RFID Lab of Auburn University and test the finished Plus RFID product with the Axial Lab of Michigan State. And that's really to ensure the readability and performance our RFID customers expect. So there are so many benefits of pre-tag medication. You know, customers are struggling with labor shortages and want efficient solutions to streamline their operations. You know, manual RFID tagging is tedious and time-consuming, while manual data association contains a risk of error. So Plus RFID products have a RAIN RFID tag embedded under the product label. They're ready to read, they're interoperable using GS1 data standards, which can really save our customers time and effort, contributing to more efficient patient care. So plusrfid.com is our Fresenius Kabi website devoted to our Plus RFID product portfolio. It includes basic information about RFID, our product compatibility with existing RFID system, and a blog focused on RFID and healthcare. So lastly, RFID has the potential to transform the medication use process. As a pharmacist, I've spent hours of time counting controlled substances, logging expiration dates, searching for recalled drugs, and nurses are forced to count controlled substances every time they access them. Tedious accounting work, taking them away from their purpose, which is patient care. So there are situations, and these are all situations where RFID can help. Seconds instead of hours. Imagine closing a bin or a door and everything is accounted for, no counting, no searching, no logging. These things are possible. And our clinicians are faced with resource constraints and burnout. They expect and really demand that companies and organizations work together to improve patient care. RFID partnerships can be a very important way to collaborate on how to help eliminate these time-consuming tasks that our clinicians perform every single day. So thank you for your attention today. And if you take one thing away from this presentation, remember how much we rely on our clinicians to take care of our loved ones. So we really need to find ways to collaborate on solutions that give them more time with patients. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gwen. I can say from personal experience that there are IntelliGuard systems in acute care facilities that are now identifying these Fresenius Kabi critical medications that are tagged at the source, and pharmacies are at this moment putting tags on those on all items, all anesthesia medication, and the Fresenius Kabi medications are coming in. They go directly into our system, and we can read them and identify all of the elements that Gwen just spoke of. So thank you so much, Gwen. Our next speaker is Brent Keppel.
Okay.
Go ahead, Brent.
All right. Thanks for driving, Paul. Anyway, I'm Brent Keppel. I'm a senior principal R&D engineer at Cardinal Health in the WaveMark business unit. So as we discussed, this is a webinar about the need for source tagging medication and medical devices with RAIN. I am going to talk a little bit about what Cardinal Health is and how we use RAIN, or how the WaveMark system uses RAIN. And I'll also discuss some results that we've seen with using RFID technology over the past 15 plus years. And then we'll wrap it up and we'll move on to Dustin after this. So if you can move on to the next screen, Paul. Thank you. For anybody who doesn't know healthcare, Cardinal Health is one of the 3 largest global distributors of pharmaceuticals and medical supplies. We're just about a 50,000 person company headquartered in Dublin, Ohio, with offices throughout and distribution centers throughout the US. And we can go to the next slide. Cardinal Health serves nearly 90% of the hospitals in the US, so that's approaching 5,000 hospitals, 60,000 pharmacies, and some, what we call it, specialty offices and clinics, ambulatory surgical centers, and so forth. We can go to, let's see, okay, well, we're not going to start the video yet, but while I'm on this screen, Cardinal delivers basically a truckload of products to every hospital just about every day throughout the United States. So WaveMark is a RAIN-based solution that's a business unit within Cardinal that provides an inventory management solution to all the hospital customers. And that solution is embodied from dock to bed. So not all the products that arrived at a hospital are tagged, either from the manufacturer or even from distribution. Well, from distribution, whether that's us or any other distributors. But by the time they arrive at the dock of the hospital, all products are going to get tagged there. We're in 2,800 hospitals, and just to give you a sense of the magnitude of the business on the medical supplies and devices compared to pharmaceuticals, we manage over 1 million different SKUs of products that are distributed to these hospitals. And those SKUs come from 11,000 different manufacturers around the world. So a huge volume and diversity in the product nature. And those that are RFID tagged are items that are typically over $250 per unit. So it's very important to manage that inventory carefully because of the expense involved. So the next slide has a 2-minute video that shows a little bit of the WaveMark system. So you can go ahead and click play there, Paul.
In the fast-paced and ever-changing world of healthcare, it's critical to know that you will have the exact products and supplies you need right when you need them. A clinical procedure is the moment of truth. It's when supply chain meets clinical operations, all with the goal of ensuring patient safety and achieving the best possible outcomes. With WaveMark, that goal is possible. With the ability to capture product usage by documenting at the moment of care, your clinical and supply chain teams will have real-time visibility to product availability throughout your healthcare system. We go further to help you increase patient safety by alerting clinicians to expired and recalled products. From there, we link specific product use information back to a patient's electronic medical record. And your materials management systems receive order signals from the WaveMark solution to replenish the used inventory. Real-time visibility to your supplies provides actionable insights that give your clinical and supply chain teams the clarity and transparency they need to guide financial and operational decisions throughout your hospital. WaveMark brings together clinicians and supply chain by automating and simplifying clinical workflows and optimizing the time clinical staff spend on supply management so that they can get back to what they do best, providing the best in patient experience and care. With WaveMark, you'll have peace of mind knowing that the products you need will be there right when you need them. WaveMark, building the future of clinical supply chains.
All right, next slide. Oops, great. This slide kind of illustrates the cycle by which products are delivered, stored, consumed, and reordered at a hospital. Starting in the bottom right corner, products arrive at the hospital dock. Some products may be pre-tagged, source tagged. Many other products are not. Probably single digit percents of the products that are received already have a tag on them. Otherwise, it's labor on the hospital's side to apply tags to all the items that come in every day. Once the products are received, we move to the bottom left corner. Products are put into storage locations where they're automatically cycle counted, and expiration management is automated because those locations are supported with an RFID system in the storage locations. When there's a patient case that gets scheduled, there's a pick list for the procedure that identifies all the products that are needed. So those items get picked and put on a case cart and brought into the procedural area at the time of the procedure, where the use of each of those items is going to be automatically scanned by the RFID system or RAIN system and put into the documentation for the case, as well as into the electronic health record for the patient. And as those items are consumed, orders are automatically placed to replenish the items that just got used. so that the hospitals have the inventory that they need in time and they're never out of stock. We can go to the next slide, where I'm going to show some of the environments in which these products are stored and how RAIN is used in those environments, as well as some of the diversity of the types of products and the intricacies that are involved with implementing a RAIN system to track all these items appropriately. This first slide kind of shows items that are like surgical kits in bulk packages, where there are many items wrapped together, and they're stored densely packed in large storage rooms. So each of these items is getting tagged, or has already been tagged and is now put into, inventory ready for a procedure in this storage room. On the next slide, there's some cycle counting happening. In this case, we're using a handheld RAIN reader and verifying all the inventory that's on the shelves, checking for expired inventory. I think actually we have another slide where we check it for expiration, but we're counting what's in stock, making sure that all the orders are received and that there's no deficits in the inventory. Moving on to the next slide, we're showing the building of a case cart where items are picked from these storage locations, and then they're going to get put into containers on this cart. They're all going to get scanned there so that they're no longer showing as in inventory room, but being assigned to a case. And those case carts get staged in the procedural areas where they move to next, and we keep track of their locations while they're there. And here we are in a procedural area where other inventories are stored right there so that they're close at hand. Instead of coming from a central storage location in the hospital, they're stored in RFID cabinets right in the procedural unit or in the procedural room itself. You can see that there's a variety of inventories here. A lot of it looks like multiples, but really many of these items are slight variations on each other, given a different size or a different aspect to each one of these products. So you always have the one that's exactly what you need. Next slide. Like I said, checking for expiration. We can already with RAIN alert the customers to items that are on the shelves that are expiring or already expired. And it's the supply chain staff's duty to remove expired products or move expiring products to locations where they'll get used before they expire. So between the use of RFID cabinets and RAIN handheld, that inventory is shuffled around appropriately. Moving on to the next slide. Some of the other types of products that are managed are cold chain products, and some people think of medication as cold chain, but there are many other cold chain products, and the biggest one or category of those being human tissue products. They're stored in ultra low temperature freezers, which are at minus 80 degrees Celsius, and you need a system that works and a tag that works in that environment at those temperatures, and to keep track of the inventory that's in those freezers, because there's extra regulations on managing the chain of custody of human tissue products. Next slide shows the diversity of small items that are stocked in bins, on racks, in storage rooms. Not much to say further on this slide, but going to the next slide, there's lots of hiding places in hospitals where products are put into drawers and that are either in built-in units or in carts, and those items are tagged and have to be found and located. Moving on to the next slide, even down to the tiniest but yet most expensive items, bone screws are stored in like tool chests, and every one of these screws is an expensive item, like for hundreds of dollars, and at every single size for every single procedure that's needed, and they're densely packed into these storage chests where they're going to be pulled out when they're needed and sterilized and used. And then the next 3 slides, we'll talk about some of the benefits of the RAIN tagging and RAIN solution that Wavemark provides. Can put some numbers on some things, even beyond what Gwen originally provided, where it starts with the benefits that we provide to the staff. They can just grab products and go. They don't have to go through a process where they check out the item and then record which items that they picked out of inventory. This savings alone is about 3 times less labor than is required by doing it with a manual method. What that adds up to is about a day a week of effort that's saved for staff. The documentation is very straightforward because we have a record of where every item is and when it gets used, and the chain of custody of that item from the manufacturer right to its use in or on a patient. And then the optimizing the operations, where there's some front-end labor to tag the items that aren't source tagged, which are many. The savings come at the back end by better managing the inventory quantities, because we have a much better visibility on the items as they're used. In the end, this saves about 28% on inventory carrying costs, and we can actually reduce the inventory volume that's required by about 20%, because we have a very accurate system for keeping the par levels of the items that are needed and managing the expiration and loss of or waste of items. Moving on to the next slide, there's a number of financial benefits to having a RAIN-based system, like from Wavemark to the hospitals and to the IDNs. With the automated PAR system, we have some predictive algorithms based on historical consumption at a given facility, or even with it down to the individual doctor, so that inventory can be ordered in the right quantities at the right time, looking at the historical consumption as well as upcoming scheduled procedures. Charge capture is another issue. We know that the cost of healthcare is always something that is talked about as spiraling out of control. A lot of the cost in healthcare is failure to accurately capture all the items that are charged when and where they're used. And by having a RAIN tag on these items, every time an item's used, it automatically gets put into the record and billed to the insurance provider that's covering the procedure. And lastly, the waste reduction, I mentioned that a little bit before, but we can reduce waste in hospital from typically around a 9% level to about 1%, because products are going to get used before they get expired and have to be just slated as waste if they go expired. We typically save about $7.5 million per year per department where the system's used, just by these kind of optimizations that we have. And then we can move on to the next slide, where, most importantly, what's the benefit to the patients? You never want to see a case where a patient is getting an expired or recalled product, or an expired or recalled product is being used on a patient. Those are called never events. The product availability, if you're the one that needs the care, you want to make sure that the doctors have the items that you need. And through RAIN inventory management, that system is accurate, and all the items are located. A significant problem in hospitals that aren't using a RAIN type system is missing items that are picked but not used and not put away and not found. And sometimes those are written off as losses, but also they can't be used for a patient, yet the system believes it's there. but it can't be found. But with RFID, RAIN tracking, those items don't go missing because they're easily located. We always know where they are automatically. And finally, everything goes into the medical record. So before we move on to my thank you slide, well, I can give a couple more figures around the types of success that we've seen with this. Basically, every year, we identify about 500,000 products that are expired on the shelves in hospitals, and get those picked out and returned to their manufacturers. In one hospital in particular, there were 8,000 expired items on their shelves of hundreds of thousands of items. And also at that hospital, with the expired product problem, there were 700 never events that were prevented at the point of use, like right there in the patient procedure, because the expired product was caught by the RAIN-enabled system in the procedure room.
Wow.
And just like Gwen said, the real reason for this topic, the need for source tagging, is to eliminate the labor that our care providers have to put into inventory management, and the labor that they have to do to tag items when they're received at the dock, because really there is no standards from so many different, as I mentioned, 1 million different product SKUs from 11,000 different manufacturers and over 2,800 hospitals in the US. There's no single standard where how everything is labeled, recorded, and managed. Because of that, the efficiencies are very low when you're not using a RAIN-based system, and the investment on labor that's still required, even with RAIN, because products need to be source tagged, is still an area to improve. As we know, one of the significant challenges that healthcare faces is labor, and that was really highlighted and continues today with the pandemic, where the workforce has just been burned out, and there's a lot of competition for the workforce that exists. So the workforces are not very stable at many hospitals, and having to use that workforce that's oriented toward patient care to do supply chain tasks is not attractive, and that will lead labor to walk. So retaining that labor by alleviating some of these tasks is really what we're trying to do. All right, that's it for me. Thank you very much, and thanks for driving, Paul.
Thank you, Brent. What an absolutely compelling use of RAIN in healthcare. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Thanks.
And now on to our next speaker. I'd like to introduce Dustin Roller from Amerisource Bergen, and the VP of Innovation Technology.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Paul. Again, thanks for the time today, everyone. Appreciate you all joining and sticking with me to round 3 or 4 of this presentation. But, I think I'm going to take a little bit of a different angle at this conversation than either Gwen or Paul or Brent have presented to date. We're all sort of looking at it through the same lens of how do we more broadly encourage the adoption and use of RFID technology, RAIN technology in particular within the healthcare sphere. Paul did a great job of sort of bringing up that one slide that, I know it's a little bit tough to read, but shows all the places within healthcare that this type of technology can really add value and add benefit. And then, Gwen went into a deep dive on manufacturer thought process and how they decided to be one of the first innovators in this space, really adopting and taking advantage of RAIN technology for their particular products as one of the earliest vanguards of this kind of capability in the industry. And then Brent really did a nice job of highlighting the sheer vastness of this problem, right? In one specific area, so that big page that Paul was showing with all those bullet points of all those different areas, with a Wavemark system from Cardinal really focuses on just a couple of those. And even within there are 1 million products. I mean, you really got to let that sink in. 1 million products from 11,000 manufacturers. And I think that's really where I've got a little bit of a good news, bad news story, that I'll go through in my presentation today, really talking about, what are we going to do? How can we sort of bridge the gap between where we are today and where we want to get to tomorrow? Because I think, as everyone has mentioned, the objective overall is source tagging by the manufacturers of, I'll call it everything in healthcare. So whether it's medical devices, little widgets that go into carts, assets, the actual pharmaceutical products, human tissues, stents and catheters. I mean, everything that you can imagine, if it had an RFID tag on it, a RAIN RFID tag on it, then solution providers could design that had a standards-based model wrapped around it. Solution providers could be free to open up and invest in building a variety of different technologies to solve lots of different workflow and labor and quality and inventory management challenges for our healthcare customer base, not just in hospitals, which tend to be one of the primary targets, but also physicians' offices and retail pharmacies and specialty pharmacies and the like, all the way down even potentially to patients' homes when you start talking about at-home clinical trials and a lot of the new models that came out of the pandemic to service patients in their home and provide them with their medications that they can self-administer. So there are lots of areas that are possible. However, one of the biggest challenges that we have is the adoption rate. And, there's a few things that we know. So this is part of the good news slide. There's 26% plus of hospitals in the US use RAIN RFID to manage their medication kits and trays. So a little bit of a different angle, something more along the lines of what Paul and Gwen were talking about. These are the OR kits and the crash cart trays that have drugs in them that are used out on the floor of the hospital or in operating rooms to be able to service their patients. And about a quarter of hospitals are using some sort of RAIN-based technology to be able to take advantage of that and manage those products. Now, that's really good because it was a single-digit percentage a handful of years ago. So the last 5 years, it's been a 73% increase. So it's continuing to steadily grow in the market, but that still means that we've got 75% of the market that hasn't done it yet. And there's some very specific reasons for that. One of the biggest challenges of adopting RAIN RFID, or really any RFID or auto ID system in a hospital, is this thing that we've all talked about. And Brent just closed with it. It was a great segue into my conversation about manually applying RFID tags. In many cases, especially at smaller facilities, and when you get out of the hospital space into doctor's offices, the effort involved in applying the RFID tags, especially for high volume, high churn materials, is as much as their labor and effectiveness savings of using the automation on the back end to track those products. So a lot of these folks do the math and say, well, all I'm doing is trading inventory management labor for tagging labor at my location, and they struggle with making the ROI work. So some of them have gone to the point of outsourcing to a completely independent third party where products have to be shipped to them. They apply the RFID tags for them and send them in. Adds an additional step in the supply chain. It adds a significantly more cost and time and complexity. And it's a bit of a challenge. And the economics, at least because of the labor structure, they can trade human time for money, which in some hospitals' cases, they have more money than time. So that works out, but it's still a bit of a challenge. And as we sit here today, despite all these great benefits that we've talked about and all the great things that RAIN RFID can do in healthcare, there's still a very, very small number of manufacturers of drugs or devices or any other products in healthcare that are actually doing source tagging. Fresenius Kabi and Gwen's team were one of the very first. To Brent's point, there are a handful of manufacturers in the device and supplies business that are providing pre-tagged RFID products or RAIN products, but it's still a tiny fraction. I mean, it is far less than 10%. It is a single-digit small percentage of products that are coming pre-tagged. And one of the other challenges is when it's tagged anywhere other than the manufacturer, typically the data is not interchangeable. So we've got a lot of proprietary RFID systems that have been developed over the years by all of us. Quite frankly, we're sort of all guilty of our own crime. And we've used our own numbering system, our own encoding methodologies based on whatever tags we like to use the best. And as a result of that, it's difficult to read tag types from multiple tagging sources. So one of the things that we really, took a look at in terms of our position in the market as AmerisourceBergen, and I won't belabor, my role or AmerisourceBergen. I'll take advantage of Brent and say Cardinal, McKesson, and AmerisourceBergen are the three. So all those things that Brent said about what Cardinal does, pretty much we do those same things. We're one of the three large wholesale drug distributors in the world, in America in particular, and what that means is we're in a very unique spot in the supply chain where we have the products sitting in our warehouses from all of the manufacturers, and we distribute those products to all of the sites of care, hospitals, physicians' offices, specialty pharmacies and the like. So there's really only sort of the three of us that can put our hands on any product from any manufacturer and send it to any customer. So as we thought about how could we possibly weigh in and address this problem of providing tags or products with RAIN tags already on them and already encoded in some fashion, so that our downstream healthcare customers broadly don't have to perform that labor and take on that effort, the way that we approached it is to perform that tagging at our distribution center at the point where those orders are assembled. We also do have our own whole bevy and array of RFID enabled and RAIN enabled solutions that go into hospitals and these various other sites of care. I'm not going to talk about that today, really just to sort of focus on this unique problem. And I'll try to do it. It's a lot easier when I'm in person because I'm a big guy, but think of an hourglass. That's what I always try to illustrate this for. All the manufacturers and original vendors on the top, all of the providers at the bottom, and we all live in this little spot in the middle where we can touch all the products and deliver all the products and be able to enact this type of a solution. One of the other big things that we really struggled with was how to provide an open source solution for the encoding. Because we're not a manufacturer, or we don't make the products that we're applying our RFID tags to or RAIN tags to, we can't just steal the GS1 encoding of the manufacturers and put it on that tag. Plus, in many cases, we have to tag the product at a unit of use that is below the NDC or the GS1 encoding on the product itself. So we have a number of these sort of eccentricities that make it very difficult for us to use a GS1 encoding scheme, because we do have a manufacturer GS1 number, but these aren't products that we manufacture. All of the manufacturers have them, but we're not them. And then some of the nuances of the unit of use versus unit of sale components that sort of add an additional dimension to it. So we thought, well, we're going to have to use our own encoding scheme. We chose to use the RAIN CIN and the ISO standard attached to that as our at least standards-based model for our proprietary encoding. But then the other thing we did is we actually have some logic in our encoding method, and we publish it publicly on the internet. So you don't need to sign up for an integration key or some sort of API key with us. We just publish the information, the decoder ring, so to speak, out on our website every day. Anybody that wants to can download that information. It's a couple of CSV files so that you can actually recognize one of our tags because of our RAIN CIN, and then be able to turn that tag ID into NDC, lot, and expiration information. So, I'll say this is not a great solution, but it's kind of the best one that we could come up with, where we make it open to anyone. No one has to pay us to be able to read our tags. And we sort of fix this problem, or at least provide a solution for the ability to add tags to any product that AmerisourceBergen sells, or that Cencora, our new company name, sells, and be able to make those products available to any customer within healthcare at their choice. And, again, it's much more expensive for us to do it than the manufacturer, just to be clear. And it's done on a per order basis because of some interesting sort of regulatory and operational issues that have happened in the distribution space. But it at least provides an avenue for all of those products to be tagged from any manufacturer to any point of care or site of care in any type of different market vertical. So I have a quick slide here on kind of how it works. It is kind of a multi-step, I'll call it less than optimally efficient process, but like everyone, we have an e-commerce platform and an EDI platform that our customers use to order products. We added a feature in those systems to be able to flag individual lines or individual orders as, I would like you to RFID tag this for me. And once that order comes through, we specifically route that order based on the customer's geography, the type of product, and a couple of other things to a handful of our DCs that have been outfitted and trained resources on performing this RAIN encoding process and this RFID tagging process. The reason why we don't do it at 100% of our distribution centers is, frankly, the volume of tagged product, to the earliest point that I made, is not that high. When you think about the literally billions of products that we ship per year, it is still in the millions of products that are being asked for with RFID encoding, with RAIN tags placed on them. So, as a result of that, we picked some centers of excellence that have the ability to, licensure-wise, can ship anywhere in the US. They have some unique capabilities from a facility and a staff and team perspective. So we were able to really focus on places. It is a complicated process to do RFID tag printing and encoding and apply it correctly. And we wanted to make sure that we had people that really could become experts in this capability. So that's why we have a handful of distribution centers around the country that actually perform this task. We route the orders there. The regular DC folks pick, pack the order and set it aside into our RFID tagging service. And then we add those tags to the product, we ship them out, and then publish that information. We don't publish like, this customer got these 500 tags. We publish the way to decode those tags with the new lot, any new lot and expiration information that may be embedded in the tags that were produced for today. Excuse me. I alluded to it in a couple of spaces, but one of the challenges that we have from a regulatory and compliance perspective is the nuances around who can do what in our space. So we solved those. We created a separate business unit that performs this tagging service. There's a bit of a handoff in the distribution center to affect that. But there were, needless to say, it's healthcare, next to nuclear power, incredibly regulated, very painful, but we did find a way to be able to afford this. And this is kind of the happy news story at the end, or at least a key illustrator of what we're talking about. There was a customer of ours that was using a solution where they had to tag all of their own products, and they had 9 sites of their 22 that were using the technology because the other ones were too small or didn't have the sophistication of staff that they could trust to be able to do the tagging of the products themselves. They just couldn't depend on it. They didn't know that didn't think their people could do it. And they didn't have enough volume to really justify standing up sort of a tagging function within their facilities. By adopting one of our solutions and then using our tagging service, because we could pre-tag all those products, they expanded that same type of technology to all 22 of their locations because it just eliminated this problem. So I think this is really kind of a concrete example that puts a fine point on where the barriers, or at least some of the barriers, are to broader RAIN RFID adoption within healthcare. And at least one of the things that we're all working on, and the purpose of this conversation today, is how do we get those tags on those products for the customer, because the customer doesn't want to do it. And their reluctance to do it, or their acknowledgement of their inability to do it well, is one of the critical barriers to adoption of RAIN technology in healthcare, period. So, again, appreciate the time today. Certainly happy to answer any questions. I know we're kind of getting close to the time, but I think that's really the nature of the conversation today, is how do we get more tags on products before they land at the hospital or the healthcare facility? And we're all eager to continue working on that problem. Thanks again.
Thank you, Dustin. You obviously understand the challenges that we all have, and thank you for describing them so clearly. And in spite of all those challenges, AmerisourceBergen has moved forward. You found a way, and you're providing efficiencies to all of your customers. And so, great presentation. We've heard from 3 real leaders in the world right now. These 3 individuals are really leading the way to transforming the healthcare supply chain. And I'm sorry that we've taken most of our time. There is a question for Brent. Does your smart cabinet use fixed RFID readers? Brent, I think we saw some handhelds. I know the enclosures have fixed readers in them. Is that correct?
Yes, handhelds are for not smart cabinet locations, and the smart cabinets do use fixed readers in them. Let's see, the other couple of questions aimed towards me are determining the placement of the tags. That's something that we actually have to teach our hospital customers and users to do, because they're tagging these items. There are some items that get tagged by our staff or by Cardinal staff in distribution centers because the customer may request it, or because it's a high volume product and it can be standardized to some degree. But all those other products, they need to be individually trained on which tag to use. We offer a small portfolio of tags that are suited for the broad spectrum of products that we carry, and where to place those. And it should also be noted that, at the dock is really where all this happens. And that's because many products arrive at a hospital directly from manufacturers. They don't even come through the distribution centers. And how do those products get tagged? Because the manufacturer's not doing it. They don't go through, a third-party distribution center. So the last point to catch it is at the hospital dock. I think that answers a couple of questions that were.
There's a question for Dustin here. How do you choose different tags that are tuned to the different types of products? For example, products with metallic surfaces containing liquid, et cetera. Dustin?
Sure. Yeah. And I think that the preceding one probably was a result of something I said as well. So, similar to what Brent said, we take a look at different tag types, and we do a lot of analysis of the response frequency spectrum that a tag performs in. And we try to get ones that are broad enough that even with a little bit of attenuation from like a Mylar bag that may be inside a box or something like that, it'll still respond in a way that our antennas can detect it, or our RFID devices can detect it. Beyond that, it is a placement issue. Now, the benefit that we have, that Brent and his team have a much larger challenge around, is because our distribution center is applying those tags, we can absolutely make sure that we put that tag in exactly the same place on the same product every time. And that is one of the tough things about having customers do it, is you got a lot of people that are doing product tagging at a lot of different places, and they're not always going to follow the manual. Whereas our guys are in, ISO 9000 certified facilities. They got SOP guides. They're used to following very strict procedures, maybe not quite as intensely as Gwen's team does in the manufacturing space, but we're one step shy of that in our distribution centers. So, we can really enforce that consistency of application, which means we just find a spot on that product that doesn't necessarily have those kinds of, performance problems, or we pick the one that works the best in a variety of different environments, and then we stick to it. On the issue of reader cost, I see that as a chicken and egg problem. The fact that we don't have a large volume of pre-tagged, standards-based, universally readable RFID products in healthcare means that every solution going into healthcare is essentially bespoke. Everything is designed as a custom thing by some one of us. Brent, Paul, and our team, as well as several others, have solutions that we deploy for specific use cases in healthcare. And it's because we had to kind of build our own and then work our own deals to make things work. And, we're leveraging some of the GS1 encoding tags that are coming in, but there's very few of them. So there's not a lot of incentive for technology companies to go and build off-the-shelf technologies that are more commercially accessible and, lower cost, higher volume kinds of options, because every hospital wants to do their own special thing, because there's not a ubiquity of these kinds of pre-tagged products in the space. If there was a lot more product out there that could be read by this type of technology, I think there'd be a lot more of those technologies, and the economies of scale would drive both the cost of them, but they would become more off-the-shelf type technologies as well. And they really aren't today. So I think that the one potentially begets the other. And that's where it's a bit of a multi-headed hydra that we're trying to tackle here, and see which things we could do at which points in time, and work on multiple fronts all at once to try to advance the technology more broadly.
Thank you, Dustin. There's one last question here, is about sensory tags. And I'll ask Brent and Dustin, are either of you using a RAIN enabled temperature measurement tag in any of your cabinets?
Speaking for me, no, we're not. The cold chain products that are produced by manufacturers or harvested locally by other places are already tagged, not with RFID, but tagged with a sensor that reflects the handling and the temperature swings that it may have been exposed to, and that is put on at the point of origin before the product ever sees an RFID tag.
Okay,
It would be
thank
great
you,
to put
Brent.
those together, but they're not. Yeah.
How about you, Dustin?
Yeah, and I'll invite a whole bunch of probably criticism for this, but I will say we've looked at RAIN-based or UHF-based sensor tags specifically for temperature for many, many years. And there are some really significant performance challenges in these environments where we need high velocity, high density, large numbers of tags being read and be able to understand that very quickly. The fact that in the vast majority of cases, I'm sure there's an example that I'll miss out there, but you have to actually redirect the reader to target the individual RAIN tags and then interrogate that tag to pull out those individual little bits that you can then reassemble into the temperature data. When you're doing high velocity, 1,000 tag at a time reads to detect the products that are being added and removed within 30 seconds of one another, there's no time to stop and mess around with interrogating your one temperature tag. So in the active world, which, I know that's not our RAIN space, but that thing used to just chirp and tell us all the information at once, the ID, and put in a battery, and it was $25. It was a miserable mess. But yeah, so far, we've done experimentation with at least a dozen different sensory tags, and they all suffer from that same problem that interrupts our inventory cycle, which is the most critical thing that we're doing.
Thank you, Dustin.
Yeah, haven't seen the answer to that yet.
Thank you. RAIN is very flexible and has lots of features and provides lots of capability with have lots of specialty tags, but it doesn't always mean it's the right solution. And I think all of us on this call are looking at reading hundreds and hundreds of items, if not thousands of items, and very good point. Thank you very much for joining our webinar today. Thank you to my three colleagues for sharing their vision, the challenges, the path that they've taken to where they are today. And so I will say thank you very much to everyone. Happy holidays. And I hope you join us in 2024 for another RAIN in Healthcare webinar. And I think we have it scheduled for March. Please look on our website for information. And thanks again to everybody who joined and to my three colleagues.